Welcome to Thief River Falls Radio, behind the scenes interview to find out a little bit more about the staff of Thief River Falls Radio. Today, we had nobody else, so we chose Bob Hultgren.
Thank you for choosing me.
You're welcome, Bob. Thanks for being a part of this. All right, so what we want to do is a lot of times you'll hear the voice of Bob Hultgren in the mornings, but he wasn't always in the mornings. He's on his second stint with Thief River Falls Radio. So let's go back in time. Back in, the late 80s, Bobby, you came to Thief River Falls Radio?
August 15th, 1989 is when I came to Thief River Falls. I had a choice then. At that point, I was working at a station in Brookings, South Dakota. And I could either go to Fort Dodge, Iowa, or Thief River Falls. I grew up north of here, so it was a no-brainer that we came close to home.
Mm-hmm. You were born and raised, so where at?
I graduated from Kennedy High School, grew up on a farm east of Kennedy, Minnesota, and in Kitson County. So born and raised there. Spent a few years traveling with radio, but have spent most of my life here in northwestern Minnesota.
What got you into radio, and how many years you been involved with radio?
What got me into radio, I think my parents gave me a cassette recorder when I was 8 or 9 years old, and a few years later a transistor radio that opened the world. I heard stations from Chicago and from Oklahoma City and from Winnipeg and places I never heard before. So I really got interested. I listened to a lot of radio. And on the tractor, the box radio on the tractor, that was your only companion. So I really had an interest in radio. And I went to UND for accounting for 1 year and realized that wasn't for me. And ended up going to the technical school here in Thief River Falls in 1980. And have been in radio since.
With instructor Howard Rocky, right?
He is the man. He still is.
Speaking of famous people, you've been in radio a number of years. Who are some of the people that you've either had a chance to interview, talk to, visit, meet?
A lot of people over the years, been some sports celebrities. I think probably one of the most famous people I've interviewed and had a chance to meet with the Reverend Jesse Jackson. When he was on a speaking tour once in South Dakota, I had a chance to interview him, and that's probably the top. Famous people in interviews have a allure to them pretty early in your career, but after a point, you realize that they're just people too. They maybe have more importance right now, but so I really don't keep much of a tab on who I visit with.
Nice to run across some, though, that are really down to earth and nice to visit with.
Yeah, absolutely, and you find that a lot of them are. They're just regular people who are doing exceptional things.
Let's find out more about Bob. Bob, what is your favorite movie?
Boy, if I were to, I love the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But then I love reading the books, so I kind of like that. But I kind of like that sci-fi fantasy type of movie.
You see his office; it's a dungeon there, looking like. What is your favorite food?
I will choose a slice of pizza almost every time, and almost anything but plain cheese.
How about snacks at the concession stands? You do a lot of games.
I do, and the go-to, of course, is a bag of popcorn, and if you get to the right gym, you end up with the melted butter. Yeah. And even though you shouldn't because it gets everything messy, you do it anyway. You grab a handful of napkins, and you have the melted butter on your popcorn.
How about either favorite time of year or favorite day of the year?
I love the fall, but my favorite day is the 4th of July. For years it was a family picnic, and it just seems like the perfect time for a celebration in early July.
If you're not working radio, which you do pretty much 90% of your time, do you have any hobbies, or what do you like doing when you're not radio?
I don't have any hobbies. I love riding my motorcycle when the weather permits during the summer. I have 3 grandchildren. I spend as much time as I can with them, and I'm pretty active in my church. So I do a fair amount of volunteer work there too, but outside of that, really no major hobbies.
Okay, Bob Hultgren, if you could retire tomorrow and money was not an issue, where in the world would you live?
I would live here. I visit a whole lot of places, but my home would be here.
Notice how I built it up, and he brought us right back home anyway. So.
Yeah, I'd be gone 2-3 weeks at a time, but I would come home. I would come home to get some clean underwear before I left again.
Thanks, Bob. Bob Hultgren. He is mornings on KTRF and with the Thief River Falls radio crew, and that's your behind the scenes from Thief River Falls Radio. This email letter.